My name is Teresa Lockwood. I reside in Vineland, New Jersey. Excuse my background. I'm still under construction. I just moved in this room, so it's a mess. So I have still I'm painting. I got paint strips up there and wood everywhere. So whatever. It's just I don't know. A mess. My clothes are piled on the floor right now because I don't have a dresser in here yet. But hopefully I'm looking for one tomorrow. But anyway, whatever. So you find some strange things in my background. It's just a wreck in here. So that's my mess. I'm still renovating. See my wood mishap. My shelves. So whatever. Anyway. So, you know what? Lighting in here, I was like, the walls look kind of blue. I don't want them blue, but they look like they have a blue tint. But they look kind of gray, I guess. I'm not really sure. I gotta get new lighting in here, and it's really bad. So, anyway. So, re-recording Ramoth Church. Sorry, I'm just blowing things off my desk. I just got a new pad on my desk because my desk was kind of worn down, I guess, or whatever, from moving stuff across it, but I don't know. I just got this little simple. I'm gonna sit there and see my. That's my desk. See, this is what we're going to record. This is my mess. So whatever. So my teacup. So where is it? I know where it is. Oh, it's right in front of my camera. I'm like, I can't get. I'm trying to look at my camera and see if I get my whatever. Anyway, so yeah. So I'm just gonna be recording Eddie Haney. And the thing is that, he doesn't really say much on here. I find it interesting. The thing is, I should go back over it because I did skip a couple spots, which I shouldn't have done. But anyway, so, you know what? What I experienced in this church, I really feel really bad for this woman. I find it very upsetting. I find it very upsetting for everybody. Like, here are these people to sit there and isolate me from people in my town or whatever, persecute me, and then sit there and, own these people. Like, what they do is ownership, right, of people. That's, a sin, by the way. It's where they could... Look, this is the thing. This person is agreeable, but she disagrees on some things, and apparently she's corrected, if you will. So she says one thing which is right, and then they'll go around and try to incorrect her, to sit there and get her to say whatever they want her to say. So they use her because she's agreeable. Appears agreeable, shakes her head, nods. She seems like a fun, bubbly person, and she may reflect a little bit of a light off these people who she does not even know. So, I don't know, sorry, if she picked up that they're, lying to her? So, he's done this a couple of times. So, this is a thing. He wants to sit there and make it a point because I said the Bible is a history book, right? So, he's still trying to insist it's a history book, and then brings up this thing about breaking down different parts of the Bible, I guess, that some parts is noted as history. It's not exactly how I see it, but it's very confusing because look. So I went through listening to him, through the book of James, which he took out of context. So this is a thing that these people do. They act like they're speaking against taking things out of context when they take things out of context. And look, we're human and we can do that in anything, anywhere. I'm sure I just did something the other day where it's just I misperceived something and responded out of context. It's I think there was a situation, I can't remember exactly what it was. But I was just my son said something, it was just and I responded in it was the same thing that could have been like has, different perspectives of it or whatever. Anyway, I'm gonna go on. So it was just like I responded out of context completely what he said or whatever. So that happens. So he brings up contradictions in here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to record it. Usually, sometimes, not usually, I'm going to say sometimes. See, I'm going to use that as an example, actually. Because in here he says, oh, it's a history book, but I'm sorry, it's not a history book, but there's history in the book of the Bible. Of course, there's history in the book of the Bible. In the book of the Bible. In the books of the Bible. And then he sits there and says, uses a principle as, oh, they're not general letters, but these are general letters. Now, okay. I've used those examples like I just showed. I just had to put that in there real quick. I wasn't going to jump to that, but since I just used that principle in relation to, okay. Anyway, I'm just, you know what? I'm going to go on. It's okay if you don't understand what I just said. To any of you, but anyway, so okay. So this is the thing. Look. No, it's not an issue where it's just like somebody should making an argument over if the Bible is a history book or however you want to label it. So he says there's not a history book. It's a book to show, people's relation with God and whatever. And I'm not excluding that either, but it's not exactly. Look, this is the thing. The Bible is a government book of the Israelite people from their perspective. And I've been saying that for years, and I find it very, very important to teach that because of my experiences with people and what I observed throughout time, and people confused about the Bible and how these false churches would enforce a Bible in a wrong way to people, which they still do today, such as this church cult has actually done to me. Who basically majorly took things out of context, out of the Bible, so they had to sit there and blame me or whatever. I'm sure I have in the past somewhere, what have you. I do have insight to basically the whole of the Bible. When I said that before and tried to teach somebody, that was basically another false pastor they were colluding with, conspire against me, persecute me. That would be Franco Palato Calvary Chapel and William Clay Ramoth Church, which is the main false pastor of this church here. So, the thing is, this person, the woman to what would be my left, was not there at the time. So, unless she was there, I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to go on. Okay, look. So, she makes a statement that poetry, from her view, basically relates to romance. Now, a lot of people think that poetry is related to some kind of romancing. Romance comes from the word Roman, from the Romans or whatever, but it would be poetry. No, poetry is a collection. Song. Okay, this is the thing. I got into a discussion, and I was very kind to this person, but he was always bullying me and always saying nasty, evil things to me just to sit there and insult me or whatever. False Minister Lee King. And so he actually slandered and bullied me out of this church, by the way. And they all claimed they were friends, but they all lied to each other. So it was actually really, disturbing. I keep forgetting I have a touchscreen. I hit my hand on my laptop. But anyway, so I was actually attacked over poetry. And he kept sitting there claiming I don't understand for correcting him. And enlightening him and sharing what I know and my view, not my own opinion. I never spoke by my own opinion. By the way, I shared knowledge, the holy knowledge of God with them. So they were grossly, had just massive like false doctrines or whatever. Even some, they actually stole true doctrines from me, and of course they quoted and read, the true doctrines, even sometimes in context out of the Bible, but a lot of it they grossly took out of context, perverted it, and conformed it to their own sins. It was like really, really terrible. I'm actually going to do another video about that, because this issue is like continual. These people seem unrepentant, by the way, and unremorseful for the heinous crimes they committed against me and the sins they committed against me. I have not committed any crimes against them, nor sinned against them. So, they're basically, I'm going to record their main pastor, William Clay, who basically is pretending to speak against slander when he slanders me all the time, vilifying me, re-victimizing me by vilifying me, blaming me as being a victim to why I'm abused, never confronting the issues of the abuser. It's really, really sick. Why? Because, well, they're psychopathic, because God gave them up to a debased mind. So, the thing is that, okay, well, back to this whole thing. He wants to argue, oh, it's not a historical book. Look, everything written, okay, of past events is what the word history is. It's that simple, okay? So, while they give this demonstration, let me record this. Hold on. Okay. It says law, history, poetry, major prophets, minor prophets, gospels, history, Paul's letters to churches, general letters, Paul's letters to, oh my gosh, I don't even remember that. Anyway, I just want to let you know, Timothy is not Paul's letters. Actually, Timothy was written to destroy Paul's defense for actually women in ministry, by the way, and slander, and slanders, well, Christianity. The thing is, it was a sabotage letter. Titus is also not, written by Paul. So the thing is I'm just going to record him real quick. And, look, the Bible is a history book. Okay. The thing is, people don't like to hear the word history. Because it's like, people relate it like stigmatically. I don't know how to say that word. How it would be like stigmatizingly, like, I don't, that may be a made up word, but you get my gist, excuse me. Oh, what I'm trying to say. Excuse me. I had something in my eye. Hold on. Okay. Anyway, so the thing is that, look, let's think about it this way. You're in history class. What do they teach? Right? What's related to history is basically you will learn a lot of things like the maybe founding of this country, okay, by different pilgrims, okay. You will find establishments of beginning of, like you have the Constitution, you have, how they established government, people who were the first, like, I don't know what the word to use for that. The first, like, signers of the Constitution, who basically were part of government and, making law, and, how the government was, set up in say, in like our different branches, like legislative branch, judicial branch, president, position and things like that, or whatever. So, three major branches. The thing is that, you will find all these things under the list of what is history. Okay, so the same thing is actually with the Bible. Okay, so the thing is that, look, this is what I'm going to say. All right, you have so you have the first 5 books called law books. That's very common. Okay, commonly taught. Nothing wrong with that. And I see Genesis. This is the thing. It's all law. That's the thing. It's all law. All of it. From the front to the back. It's all law. Okay? In regards to Genesis, I kind of distinguish that different, okay, um, than what would be categorized under law, I guess. Historical books, this is more judgment and rulings, okay? These are books that you will actually find the most description. And it would be like, in the book of law, but descriptions of wars, okay, law, and their experiences in it. So, in regards to poetry, going back to poetry, this is a thing. I was actually attacked in this church for poetry. And I kindly respond like, well, our songs is poetry. It's basically the verse. It's the how do I say it? I'm gonna sit there. I don't want to use different words. The lyrics that no, I don't use the word lyrics. Don't sit there and say the words that take form. How do they say it? The words that take form. No, the words that form basically a message that we sing in songs is poetry. So they do have poetry. They have Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. I don't know. I guess they did make a song, a couple of songs actually, out of the book of Ecclesiastes. So Job, and Job and his friends, and basically dialogue between them. So to sit there and say major prophets and minor prophets, look, these are I don't get that. I've seen that before. I don't know if they mentioned it in the church when I was there, but I think so. And I can understand how they're saying minor and major prophets, but the thing is it's just the containment of basically what is written about them. So, to just sit there and say, well, that's a major prophet or that's a minor prophet, and I mean, this is ridiculous. Like, I mean, okay. There's the prophets are first noted, what is noted as a book of law, in the first 5 books. I would say 4 books: Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. If you were going to basically put something under law, I don't know, but in Gospels, well, look. I can't. The thing is, when he's talking about general, he's like, well, these are general letters now, because it says general letters. Right? And then he makes a statement that they're not general letters. They're not distinct from others except for the circumstances. There's a knowledge of God that is coming in conflict against, basically, that is in false knowledge or a lost way or whatever the case may be. These are these letters are different, and he basically says, oh, they're not basically addressed to anyone. Well, the letters that he read from James, and he basically said it before, where it's just like, oh, well, they're not addressed to anyone, or they're addressed to anything. They were playing on words. It's like very confusing. So I guess you have to listen to it. But another thing, the book of Hebrews, they're basically going through. You said they're going to go through Timothy. Not Timothy. I'm sorry. The book of Peter, which is, it's interesting. Even in the book of Peter, I can't remember if it's actually located in the first book or the second book. Actually, it was like one book at one time. From my research about the books, that was like a long time ago. I don't go by on people's commentary or their false opinions about the interpretation. I'm not saying that everything is excluded as not being interpreted correctly. Of course, there's things interpreted correctly. I've actually found like something I wasn't, seeing and identified. That is actually very rare. There's only a few things I would think that I had. Okay. that actually somebody else's interpretation gave light that I wasn't perceiving at the time. So, hardly none. Majority of my commentary is original. Of course, I look up words and roots of words and etymology of things or whatever. And of course, I have to go through like how the changes of words, because that's a whole different story. So anyway, in regards to, look, as soon as there have Acts, he doesn't describe it. Like, he doesn't really know what's in our Bible. He doesn't know if the Bible's true or not. The thing is, he doesn't know because he reads from false versions that is not of basically the original translation, and people just added on to something that's not there and not found, and all these extra things that is not an interpretation or a translation, and called interpretation and translation. Sorry. There's no such thing as other different versions. Now, I've expressed things of like other versions of the Bible. It's simple in conversation to relate it to that, but it really isn't. There's only one Bible, and that's basically the original works. No, I have not read the Greek translation and all this. I cannot read Greek, so we learned some words. That can get complicated. So anyway, this is the thing. First of all, I'm going to go to the gospel. The gospel is spoken through all of these books, well, except for these false forged Timothy or whatever. By the same, Paul confirms Jesus' word, but they don't know that because they will sit there and falsely misinterpret Paul's writings. And that, like I said, I was going to say before, that was something I was going to say, is where Peter actually expresses these people doing the same thing. Like, all these people have falsely misinterpreted Paul, does not understand Paul. Yes, I am the only one who understands Paul and Jesus Christ, by the way, and has rightly interpreted them. So I'm not saying everything that people absolutely have not interpreted, like, you know, all things that was said or what have you. There's good interpretations online. There really is. And yes, I will sit there and confirm it to see if it's true or not. And yes, the ones who can't interpret will try to do the same thing. So my persecutors basically have that attitude where they grossly just pervert it to an oblivious. From Calvary Chapel, Frank Apollo, his son, that he uses, that he lies to. And deliberately not only has him like teach false teachings deliberately and slander and tells him lies. It's really sad when a parent lies to their child. It's actually abuse, exploiting their own children. It's really, really sad. Anyway, in regards to look. First of all, he's not a teacher of scriptures. Neither was their other false teacher leaking. He would look up on something on Wikipedia, which was completely contrary and not even interpreting scripture or whatever. But in regards to, he makes claims in regards to like Hebrews. I don't call the book of Hebrews general letters. Hebrews is to the Hebrews, and it is grossly perverted. It's actually been perverted and tried to use against me or whatever because I believed in law. As I'm slandered by these churches as religious and a legalist, which means one of law and basically one who is right. So they have a problem with that. Yeah, even their false pastor, William Clay, basically made a statement and said, you know, oh yeah, well, he made a statement about, me being right, telling me how I'll surrender myself or whatever. Even attacking me because I said, rightly, that I am a theologian. And so they told me I'll die to self or whatever, making these passive aggressive threats, using that to hide behind or whatever, to sit there, basically to tell me to die. Oh, because I'm of God. See, theologian basically means one who's of the knowledge of God. And no, there's no such thing as theology, by the way. Nobody can study God. Okay? So they try to use that word or whatever, and you can't, because, like I said, nobody can study God, but every one of these people who falsely claim to be Christian and claim to be falsely biblical teachers, they have all taught that theology is a study of God. Well, that's impossible. So something I basically got into a conversation with these people, and they attacked me because it's a pride thing. Pride and arrogance. I mean, I kindly and humbly shared it with them simply, and they had to attack me because, they're haughty in their own ignorance. So anyway, so this is the thing. All right, so you get Acts. Look, I'm gonna sit there and get something to point. I should use my dot pen. But so look, Acts, right? So that's an interesting book because Paul goes under trial and they're questioning him, and there's a lot of things, just like the first of It's interesting because going there, you have Paul persecuting the church, right? So Christians, okay, and then of course there's his conversion, right? And then you have him being persecuted, right? So and then there's like trials. I encountered like atheists who they have this thing to where, there's no accounts of other records, of the times of Jesus and what's in your Bible or whatever. And the thing is what none of these people have a defense of or can understand or acknowledge, and claiming that there's no other writings. Now there's other, I forget what it was, these other writings found somewhere in relation under Romans, but this is a thing. The Bible is a collection of different of I would say transcripts, if you will, or even narratives. Some are, you could see that it's a later written as narrative as what happened in history. That would be from moments before to whenever, thousands of years down the road. But behind them. So my whole thing is that you can't exclude history from the present and the future. So I have this original writing where it says, what you plant in the present becomes past, okay, and is harvested in the future. So I think it alters like however I express it, but the same principle or whatever. But that same plant holds both history, present, and future. Okay, so when you plant it, there's a growth of future to come. Okay, so but it's always planted in the present. Okay, but the history of that plant is very important in a role. You can't exclude it. Okay, so it was planted into history. Okay, so and how that plant grows and what it contains, and the health of it, and things like that is all very important, and it tells you a lot. So this guy also goes on about science. Oh, it's not a science book. Well, you know what? Look, the Bible is like everyday people and everyday writings. Okay, it is like court. When you have court, or I'm sorry, the government of cases and law and things like that, you have law, you have personal records, you have trials, you have their history of the wrongs done, the crimes done, and the law that comes against that, okay, and their testimonies, experiences, and things like that. Okay, you have journals, you have all these things. This Bible contains all the things that we have in everyday life society today. It has a lot of science in the Bible. It has a lot of law in the Bible. It has a lot of poetry in the Bible. Okay, it has experiences of many different things, from experiences in the righteousness of God, and the experiences what happened when people strayed away from the things of God and away from God. So, it's going to contain the same things of our everyday life that we use in every day. So, with your census, okay, your birth certificates, like all of these things, it is a government book. That's what the Bible is. It is a government book from the Israelite perspective. I think I'm just going to throw this in here because I started to say it before. I had to move on or whatever. But in regards to saying that, there are people who, like I was saying before, where people presented the Bible in a wrong way, destroying people. Actually, abuse of the Bible destroys people. It's very important, to have true teachers. When somebody's not a true teacher, they bring destruction. They are destroying people. They are destroying lives, like these people do. Okay, these are Wesleyans, by the way. They persecuted me. They're still persecuting me. Okay, so anyway, so the thing is that false teaching can offset what is planted. The seed that is planted in the present becomes the past. Okay, and can offset the future in a wrong way. So righteousness, planting a seed of righteousness in the present, becomes the past and influences the future. Okay, it's that simple. All right. So the thing is that yes, and these people have destroyed many lives, and they want to blame the victim. By the way, that would be me and whoever else. And I'm talking about innocent victims. I'm not sitting there, them coming against like evil people. So I'm sure they'll sit there and try to it'll be like the Christ crucified between the two thieves and try to make them all the same. So, that's a term that I use in relation to how these people, what these people practice, and I'm talking among all of these churches and denominations. So, anyway, so the thing is, anyway, I'm gonna go on. Look, look. Paul's letters to churches, general letters. That makes no sense. In the book of Romans, it basically is addressing the people, actually a number of people in rooms, and that in Rome, and I'm trying to focus on it. And sit there and try not to look it up. But in Rome, and it consisted of basically, the Jews, Greeks, and all these things, and they were addressed or whatever. So there's beautiful writings. I love the book of Romans. It's actually, my teachings are actually being perverted by the other false pastor. They persecuted me from Calvary Chapel or whatever and perverted it greatly. Romans, Corinthians are the greatest perversions, the books that are greatly perverted by these false pastors around the world. It basically, book of Romans judges. Okay, it teaches law, it judges, it convicts. The recording of Paul addressing the people, judges, teaches law, convicts. These are my personal observations. I don't look up other people's diagrams and things like that or whatever. I will, observe other people's diagrams as I'm doing now and criticize it, either agree with it. If it's a brilliant work, I'll gladly talk about it and reveal that great work about something I haven't found any. But the thing is Romans, Corinthians are very, very, very similar. With Corinthians, you have people coming in from, all kinds of places, and people, you can tell that there's people, a great expression of people of power, and things like that. Corinth was considered like a county seat, and I heard that from somewhere else. I just want to say that, but it comes into the observation. I love that term. It makes it very simple to give a viewpoint, what we're looking at, who's he addressing, to make sure it's not connected to these small isolated churches that we have in our town. Like, we have over 50 churches, in our town alone. None of them I went to was Christian. I went to about 30 of them. Well, almost 30 in Vineland, or whatever. But the thing is, so with the book of Hebrews is very important, because Hebrews has is dealing with the issues between the letter of the law and spirit of the law, which is actually expressed in Romans, but he's dealing with strictly people who are leaders, teachers, I mean, and other people as well, that were, thought they had this understanding of the scriptures and things like that or whatever, and strict adherence to the law, yet blinded. Okay, and it was actually expressed basically giving comparisons of sacrifices, and breaking through that veil that they were under, and it wasn't because of the law. It was they were veiled to the law. I wouldn't say that with everybody, but there's because you only can encounter the holies of holies with a pure heart. That is the truth, and